Hello and welcome back to season 2 of Diary of a Name Dropper. I'm so excited. And I hope you are as excited as I am. We're kicking off an amazing season with 2 of my favourite people. 2 people that I would happily move in with and also steal their mum. And, it all becomes abundantly clear in the episode. So do enjoy it and sit back, get a cup of tea, make sure you've subscribed, tell your mates, and enjoy this episode of me, Season 2, Episode 1 with Tigy. I'm so excited today that I'm keeping it in the family with a previous guest, and a guest that I had some family connections to as well. So I'm an absolute fan of both my previous guest and this guest, who are related. I'm welcoming today 2 guests, which is really special and really, really exciting. We're going to start with Bailey Tzuke, the daughter of Judie, and one half of, am I saying this right, Bailey? Is it Tigy? Is how you
That's right,
pronounce
yes.
it? It's not Tigy.
Well, it's Tigy for me because I'm very dyslexic and I'm not great at spelling things out. But it does stand for something as Tigy. So
which we will come to.
Yeah, we will come to that.
Well, so I have Bailey, and later on we'll be joined by Matt from Tigy. But Bailey, welcome. I'm so happy you're finally here.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm really looking forward to this.
So I have severe jealousy because your mum is Judie Tzuke. In the most positive way. I know jealousy is an ugly emotion, but I adore your mum.
Oh, so do I.
She's just the most wonderful soul on the planet. Honestly, she's so lovely and kind and brilliantly talented. And I went to see Woman to Woman and I cried all the way through. It was so emotional.
Oh.
I went to see it at Aylesbury Waterside with Beverly Craven, Julia Fordham, Rumour came on.
Oh, wow.
It's just incredible. These just titans.
It was a beautiful show, wasn't it? We got to see it actually as well, which was wonderful. They had to squeeze us in though because it was a very packed show.
It was packed. I know. And I got in there early and pitched my position.
Very
but
good.
Humankind is quite beautiful. I mean, your mother is the most beautiful songwriter, and that has clearly been inherited by you.
Oh wow, well that's lovely. I hope so on some level.
You are poets. You're poets with musicality, and it's just a gift. The pair of you have the most exquisite voice. So I'm going to take it right back. So Judie Tzuke, previous guest, you need to listen to my episode. I'm a super fan. Stay With Me Till Dawn is just an anthem from the 70s, and it was 70s, wasn't it? Am I showing my...
It was 79,
It was just on the cusp.
Yep.
What? I'm going to ask first of all, because before you were a musician yourself, even though I think you're born one, what was it like growing up with Judie Tzuke as a mum on tour and like crazy?
Do you know, I guess now I look at it and I see quite how crazy and amazing and magical and wild it was. When I was younger, I didn't really know any different. You know, I just was sort of right in amongst it. I never really considered that a kind of career would be music. It was more that we lived and breathed music, and that was just what we do. We sort of make the joke of, that's sort of just how it goes in our house.
Because your sister sings as well, doesn't she? Tallulah.
She does, yeah. Tallulah sings. She's an amazing singer. But actually, she's the only one she didn't get into writing. So I think that's maybe where she hasn't quite got the bug for it. Oh. But I'm still working on her.
But you've had the most incredible career. You're not just Judie Tzuke's daughter. I mean, you've got beautiful band now, but you've worked with some absolute... I mean, you've worked with the Freemasons, you've worked with Faithless. Your song, Uninvited, was an anthem, the Alanis Morissette cover, which was... So what happened? I know you were touring from a really early age. You just jumped in, didn't you?
I was touring from, I think my first tour with my mum obviously when I wasn't at school, when I was 11. And I used to go on and do backing vocals with my big sister Annie and also Lucy Silvers, who is an amazing singer.
Yes.
Yeah,
oh my goodness me.
So they used to be on stage. I used to stand with them and do backing vocals. And then my sister stopped doing it. And then it was me and Lucy. And then Mia, her sister, Mia Silvers, came along. And so it's really been such a family affair always. I mean, Lucy's like a big sister to me.
I love Lucy Silvers.
Yeah, I was very lucky in that going on tour was just, again, like the family just went on tour.
Your mum's so low key as well about what she does, which I think is really nice. So you probably didn't feel like you were doing something completely different to other kids because your mum is so self-deprecating. And
she is.
It's like you were signed to Elton John's label, you're just an absolute legend. But am I that? 17 albums or something ridiculous.
I know. The stories she can tell it's just amazing. It's still amazing. I'm still finding things out, that now that we kind of, every time I hear her talking every now and again, there's something I didn't know. I'm like, really? God, did you do that? That's amazing, But yeah, she's
really? I
very
love
humble.
That. That was me gesticulating wildly with excitement and enthusiasm. Have you got any crazy memories?
Well, let me think. I did, to be honest, being on stage with my mum, and then I guess growing up and then my little sister joining us as well. And eventually actually Matt played drums for my mum. So there was a couple of tours where we were all on tour together, and it was just the most amazing thing in the world. I mean, it's so magical being able to look across the stage to mum. Also, she gets very nervous, so we're very connected on stage. And we always have been.
Couldn't believe how nervous she gets.
So nervous.
I saw her before a gig.
Yeah.
And how wonderful to be that passionate about what you do and care that you create she just cares so much that she gives people the best performance. And how wonderful, really. I mean, awful to be nervous so much, but how wonderful for her fans that she's not blasé.
Exactly, that's so true. And it keeps her, I think, it's what keeps her so current as well. And she's so, her writing, she's so prolific, but she's never stuck to, she's never got stuck in one place. She's always moved about with her writing. She can write with other people. And they've always stayed current for that reason, I think.
So we'll get to Matt. Did you meet Matt by him session drumming, or had you already met him? Or
I'd met him in passing at parties.
Okay.
But it did actually come about through a friend of ours called Cameron Blackwood, who's a producer, who I was talking to about needing someone to play drums, and he was like, "I know a drummer."
Now, we'll get to Jack Savoretti a bit later, but I think Cam Blackwood produced him.
Absolutely, he did, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. He's a wonderful producer.
Well, before we get to Matt, because I'm desperate to get to Matt, because I want to hear all about the new album and the tour and all the stuff you're doing, which is just brilliant. You'd had a bit of a dance music phase. I mentioned Uninvited, which is the Freemasons remix.
Yes.
What was that like? You must have done the whole TV shebang and
we did, yes. Well, to be honest, that came really, we didn't really know what it was going to be. I'll take you right back, actually.
Yes, do. Just talk.
I think it's so magical the way these things all come together. But way back when I was at Brit School, studying music, I was doing my internship, and I managed to get an internship at Metropolis Studios in London. And I went along, and on my first day, they put me straight into the office and made me file a load of stuff and answer phones and, take down in people's information and all that kind of stuff. The next day I came in and the woman was like, "You filed everything so badly. I have to take the whole office apart and put it all back together. Just go into the studios and spend the rest of the week with everyone recording." I was like, well, my dyslexia hasn't paid, that forward that well since, maybe, but at that moment I was like, thank goodness I don't know my alphabet.
Served you.
It served me great. So I ended up spending this week in the studios in Metropolis. So meeting so many people, and on that got to meet Jimmy, one half of the Freemasons. And so I got on really well with Jimmy. It was, I think, probably maybe a year and a half later. Oh no, actually it must have been quite a few years later, that he basically got in touch about doing this Alanis Morissette cover that they'd been doing with her voice on it, but they wanted to do a version with somebody demoing it, basically. So at first I was going to demo it. And then they sort of said, well, actually, if it's going to be on the album, would you be up for being on the album? So I went in to record it. But I'm not a big dance music person. It's not really where I normally sing. So when I went in and they had all the drums and things going on, I was a bit kind of lost in it. So we took all the drums out, and I actually recorded it half time. So I didn't get to hear it the way it came out until it was on the radio. It was really exciting, really exciting. So when I did it, it was all sort of half time. And I think that's maybe why there's this sort of ethereal floatiness to the way that the vocal works with the track, which ended up
way
being...
to describe that.
Yeah,
it really
it was so exciting. When I heard it, I couldn't believe it. I was just, oh my God, this is so, like I couldn't have even imagined it would end like that. And then, of course, it was going to be their single, and they wanted me to be in the video. Which I was, and that was a real experience. And then, doing all this promo. I mean, we went all over Europe. Actually, me and Matt did it. He kind of came with me, and we did all the press and the promo, and just some amazing stuff in France. Huge audiences. It was so surreal.
But the Freemasons are just huge.
Absolutely huge.
I love Kelly Rowland work. The way that. Oh my God! I love the way it kind of goes into. I'm going to show my heathenness. I was interviewed recently about my love of music, and I sound like such a heathen compared to proper musicians, but I know what I mean. But they do those brilliant sort of breaks and middle eights, and it keeps going. It keeps riding and riding and riding, and I just,
it's amazing. When people do it great like that, it really is amazing just to be taken on that journey and just like, oh my God, what's happening next?
And Faithless. We should probably mention Faithless as well, talking of brilliant dance acts.
So I got that all came together. Actually, I was with my publishing was with Warner Chappell, a chap called Mike Salt, and he actually set me up to write with Rollo Armstrong, who is part of Faithless, on a project that he was doing outside of Faithless. So it was a project called All Thieves, which hasn't yet been released fully, but one of the songs did get used at the end of one of the Grey's Anatomy. It was like the penultimate episode of one of the seasons. It was huge. I couldn't believe it.
They used a mega Grey's fan.
Oh, I am too, and I got to see it in real time. In the program. I didn't even know it was happening. Actually,
no.
Yeah. Somebody on my MySpace emailed me and said, "I think I heard you in Grey's Anatomy last night." I was like, "No." Anyway, went onto my MySpace. I had like 25,000 people had like emailed overnight. I was like, "Oh my goodness me,
that's amazing!" And was that before? How recently was that? Because
oh gosh, I don't actually.
I'm assuming was it post Shazam? Because Shazam has been a game changer, hasn't it? Because then you can find out what things are. It's nothing worse than you hear a song and you're like,
and you don't know what.
I'll just have to remember this and hum it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Grey's has been like that. There's been some absolute. I would say part of Grey's Anatomy, the beauty of that show and Shonda Rhimes is her ability to put the right music.
Oh, the music placement's amazing. I know. I couldn't believe it. I mean, that's the one thing now. TV in general actually is becoming such an amazing place to find music, because unlike the mainstream kind of radio, there's a lot of tracks that you wouldn't necessarily hear often that would have maybe been album tracks, but really powerful songs, but maybe not just your sort of mainstream single, suddenly appear in these moments in programs, and they just hit, right to the heart. You're like, wow, what is this? I've got to go and find out. That's how I find a lot of music now, actually.
It's an additional platform, and it's something. I mean, my son, he's doing cinematography, but what he wants to do is be responsible for putting music in songs.
Oh, amazing.
I think we watched Drive the other night.
Oh, yes.
And the soundtrack for me makes the film.
Absolutely, that was one of my favourite. I mean, that soundtrack's. Yeah. What's that track on it that's my favourite?
Be a Real Hero, and
yes, I loved that.
And a London Grammar.
Night Call. There was one called Night Call. Oh gosh.
Yes, and it completely. And didn't Zane Lowe do an alternative soundtrack to it? Yeah, check it out.
Really?
Was it Zane Lowe? I think it was. My producer's nodding, saying, "Yeah, it's Zane Lowe," and he's probably going to say. And also, this is the right opportunity to say, have you ever watched The Wizard of Oz with the music, with the sound off, to the Dark Side of the Moon?
No.
Oh, well, that is something. How old's Rani now? Is she?
She's going to be 8.
She'll love
month.
it. she'll love it then. You have to start it.
Yeah.
Now, there's a whole internet thing on this, and we did it one Sunday. We did it in lockdown on the vinyl, Dark Side of the Moon, and I think you have to start it at a particular point. I'll need to find out.
I'll check it out.
And it's unbelievable to watch the Dark Side of the Moon and the Wizard of Oz. So, sorry, I'm digressing.
Oh, that's very cool. No, I love things like that.
Completely. But I just, anything like that. I just love soundtracks. And for me, a song can almost be a B-side. You don't pay much attention to it, and then you will hear it in a song.
Well,
Sorry,
exactly.
you'll hear it in a film.
Yeah.
And it changes your life.
This is the thing. I think it's especially as, I don't know how music is going to go. There is a lot of talk, people are releasing songs at a time, not necessarily making albums and things anymore. And that, for me, that makes me worried, because I've always loved album tracks.
The story.
But also, like, often more than the main singles, I love the album tracks more. But if there's not going to be a place for them, I'm like, gosh, people still need to make this music. And actually, I think that TV, movies and things is still offering that place for those songs. And that's, exciting.
Yeah, God, I hadn't thought of that. I guess with music on demand, people are just churning out I hate to say it, what might make the most money.
Exactly. And I think that, that leans itself to a lot of the same kind of thing coming out, rather than these stories that you can get into and sort of travel through emotions. There's got to be places for all these different emotions, I think, personally.
Yeah, and there are definitely albums that I went to see Songs in the Key of Life in its entirety.
Yeah.
At Hyde Park. And that's how Stevie wants you to listen.
Yeah, exactly.
He wants you to listen to that album and go on that journey with him.
Absolutely.
And The Secret Life of Plants as well, if you want to sort of really go out there. But I agree, it's really sad. If, there might be a whole generation of children that don't even know what an album is, that just click on songs. And I remember, and I bet you did the same, sitting for hours looking at vinyls and reading lyrics.
The lyrics was the thing for me. Was just like, I was obsessed. As soon as I heard something I liked, I was like, I need to get that album. I need to sit there. I need to read through every bit of it. I need to find out who's doing what. It's just, I worry that that's disappearing a little. But I also think that there is, and maybe this is just in my rebellious nature, there are people out there who are going, I'm still going to make an album. I don't care if people only listen to one of the songs, most people, but some people will get into the album. I think that as long as there are still people doing that, there will obviously, there's been a huge rise in record sales, vinyl. Vinyl's
brilliant.
Way back. And that's brilliant, because obviously you can't skip through that in the same way that you can with streaming, and it can't be all jumbled up as an album, like, on Spotify. They can't sort of,
shuffle.
Put the track listing. Exactly. I'm like, the track listing, to me, I'm like, the track listing really matters. We spend a lot of time putting that in the order, because it's the way it's meant to, all come, follow one to the next. It's important.
Yeah, and Jeremy makes a lot of playlists for the children while they're at uni, and he's like, "You need to play it in this order, though. Don't shuffle. It's really important. I've done this, so you go on a whole journey." And
exactly.
It's so
exactly
important. Now, you've been with Matt for 14 years this year. Married, not even with him.
Married, yeah.
Dog, cat, the whole shebang.
Beautiful
daughter who features in your videos.
She does.
We should probably introduce Matt to everyone, because he's pretty excellent. And I always prefer, I've got a T-shirt that says I prefer the drummer. I've always loved a drummer. I've always dated the drummer, actually.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's an underrated position in the band. It doesn't quite get the recognition it should, I don't think, very often. We're actually quite a popular bunch.
You say drummers are sort of I think they're the live wire of the band, because everyone looks at the lead singer and goes, the lead guitarist, lead singer, that's, come on, Tommy Lee from Motley Crue.
Yeah, but I think but I agree with you, but I think it's like it's like an acquired taste. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
But if you don't, you're just, the masses are just generally like, who's that idiot at the back? But if you know, you know.
I love a drummer. I always watch the drummer.
Yeah, me too. I always watch the drummer.
And I love a drummer that sings.
Oh, I do. Do you know, I am so jealous of, I'm not a singer.
Are you not?
No, and I wish I think, do you know, I think everybody can. but it's about whether or not you truly have the will to actually execute it in front of other human beings. And I really struggle with that. So whenever I see a drummer that's singing, I get the first thing that happens is I get a real kick of jealousy. Just like, look at you,
showing off.
Look at you doing all the things. So I'm with you. Don Henley, like, what a dish. Those songs, that drumming, what a man.
But all that whole era for me as well. Hall and Oates.
Hall and Oates, totally. The band, Levon Helm, singing when the night they drove Old Dixie down.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I don't know that one.
There is a documentary of that. Of the band doing one big show, which was made by Martin Scorsese, and they've got all these incredible guests. But they've got like Neil Young's on there and stuff like that. But the highlight is it's the Last Waltz, and but the highlight is
I think
Levon Helm, just what a man.
Well, I was going to ask you both. I was going to ask Bailey lyricists that you really admire, and I was going to ask drummer, because everyone always assumes it's Keith Moon. It's all about Keith Moon. Who is your hero lyricist and who is your hero drummer? You can both answer, but as you're both beautiful lyricists and drummers, I want to know who you really.
I think for me, I'm a massive Fiona Apple fan. I have always been a huge fan of her lyrically. I love how raw and emotional she is. And I also love a band called Frightened Rabbit, who aren't going now, but some of the most incredible songwriting, I think, ever. It's just beautiful. I think probably those two. And then maybe my favourite drummer would probably be this really handsome guy called Matt Racher.
Oh, who is that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and he's been known to drum with his top off as well. I mean,
has he now?
That was a different
I've heard it's
time.
how he bagged his wife.
not a rotating hanging from the ceiling drum. No. Have you ever been rotated and suspended midair like Motley Crue, Matt?
No, I haven't. I did tour with. I toured with Kylie Minogue at one point, and it was
brilliant.
Quite a big production, and part of there was like a big sort of changeover sort of section, and I came up on a second drum kit through the centre of the stage, through the floor on a pneumatic lift.
Oh,
that
was
so amazing!
And so that was quite bizarre.
It was amazing.
I have to say, I did find myself, and I was also the first person in that moment to be introduced. So I always looked a bit weird. I've seen the footage back, and it is a bit odd. There's this little big hairy man on a drum kit just comes up through the middle of this sort of like video screen stage being introduced by Kylie, bless her. But
very
exciting. So I've had that, but no, I don't think I could. First of all, I wouldn't be able to just go on a roller coaster without a drum kit. So the idea of going on a roller coaster and playing the drums at the same time sounds ludicrous to me.
But you've really stretched yourself, because you've got Kylie, and then you've got you've played with Lily Allen, and then George Ezra, Judie. So that's so many different styles. And did you say you did a bit of dance as well? Have you done any dance drumming?
I've done all sorts of stuff. It's just the nature of the beast, I think, isn't it? I like everybody else who's got a creative leaning. I didn't get into playing the drums because I wanted to be the best drummer in the world. I got into playing the drums because I wanted proximity to music. I loved being around music and making music, and therefore, you sort of just go wherever you get led, I guess. I mean, I was in horrible punk bands when I was growing up. That's what I wanted to do, was just make vicious punk music.
I was going to say, how did you start? Was it aggression and just I think angst?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, probably. I mean, I think a lot of drummers do, but that was it. Yeah, I just wanted to be in rock bands, and I wanted to get all hot and sweaty, and I loved big riffs and big old 70s rock bands and 80s and 90s, all that. Nirvana were happening when I was just thinking about playing the drums, and of course we didn't know then that Dave Grohl was going to be Dave Grohl, but like there was such an energy to those bands at that time. So that was what I was doing. But then the reality is that the privilege of being able to pay the bills through music doesn't always come necessarily from the style that you chose. So I just ended up at a point where I'd rather play drums than do anything else. Therefore, if I'm lucky enough to be able to earn money doing doing that, then I will lend myself to whatever it is I need to do, you know. So I've done all sorts of crazy adverts and K-pop sessions before
Brilliant.
K-pop was big, you know, all that kind of stuff. So
Well, I know a few session drummers. You may have. In fact, do you know Hugo Degenhardt?
I don't, but he's got an outrageously
name.
cool name.
Isn't that a brilliant name? Well, he's sessioned for Kylie.
Right,
That's why.
okay.
And he was in the
Yeah,
Bootleg
yeah.
Beatles. He was Ringo for years.
Oh my God, the Bootleg Beatles do not get the respect that they deserve for
Thank
being
you.
absolutely. I will say
Oh, I'm
this
so glad you say that, because people always think, "Oh God,
no.
tribute act."
There's a different. There are tribute acts, and then this is a different thing. I saw them support Oasis, I think.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was Nebworth. I might be
think
off my
I was
rocker.
there.
But I have to say, and that was when I was really young, and I think I was 16, 17 maybe, and that blew my mind. I couldn't believe how good they were. And then as the years have gone by, now they're outrageous. There's a different level, because the Beatles never did it live. Well, they did early doors, but those records, those later records that we all love so much, they never really did it. So to see them being executed as well as they were by the Bootleg Beatles, next level.
Well, and Hugo had to drum left-handed because Ringo was a left-handed, and sing Yellow Submarine.
Amazing.
And All You Need Is Love with the nodding head.
What a hero.
So yeah, he did bootlegs for quite considerable time, but he was also drumming for Steve Hackett, and so I wonder whether your paths ever cross. But the drummers, I'm a bit older than you, but the drummers of the 90s that really stick out in my head are, and I don't know whether, well, Max Beasley is now an actor, but he was a brilliant drummer and percussionist, and a guy called Andy Gangadine was a guy that everyone.
Yeah.
And Paul Stacey, or is it Jeremy Stacey?
Jeremy Stacey, amazing drummer. Ended up on tour with Sheryl Crow. I think Jeremy Stacey's High Flying Birds drummer.
That's
now.
it. Yes,
he's doing that. Yeah,
yes.
what a player. Andy Gangadine though, remarkable. I went to see him do. He had a project called The Bays. Which was all just essentially improvised around. They all sort of brought us like a small sample of ideas to each other, and then just played. And I remember seeing that in Notting Hill when I was like 19. My mind was completely blown.
Yeah, sorry, Bailey. You see, this is what happens. I get chatting to a drummer, and it's game over.
Yeah,
that's absolutely fine.
I can see why you married him.
Yeah.
This is wonderful. I love it. Honestly, I could talk about session music. I lived with session musicians in the 90s. I had a normal job, and everyone else was a session musician, and it was acid jazz at the time. And my friend Adrian Meehan, who now runs Soho Radio, he was a drummer.
Oh, wow.
And he was playing for Lena Conquest and Brian Ferry as well, actually. But so that was at 16. I suddenly thought, oh wow, there's session drummers. I just always thought bands were put together, and that was it. And a lot of the time there are bands, but a lot of the time it's session musicians who don't get the credit they deserve. I really don't. And you're so right, Matt. You have to lend yourself to any style if you want to pay the bills.
Yeah, you have to be so versatile.
Yeah. I wish I could have just been in a horrible rock band and not learned any of the other necessary skills. If I'm honest, hand on heart,
Yeah. Who's your favourite rock band? Go on, it's a terrible thing to say, but go on, drumming.
That is a massive question. Do you know what? I'm going to go slightly out there, and my favourite rock band, actually I can tell you, my favourite rock band is the band called the Deftones.
Oh, right.
Which not everybody knows, but I think they're a superb band. But I'll get one of the most wonderful drummers of his generation by a long while. But again, huge in America, not quite as well known over here.
And Bailey, are you a rock lover as well?
I've got a real mixed sort of bag. I like all different things, to be honest. I'm trying to think of rock bands.
You like the Disturbed and things like that.
I did like
You've
Disturbed.
got some
Yeah,
really
I definitely.
heavy taste.
Oh, really heavy.
But not all the time.
I'm curious. I like to find out about, if I see people enjoying something, I'm like, oh, what's going on over there? I might go and check that out, and I'll delve into it for a while. And I think that's part of, when people are like, oh, what's your influences? I'm like, I'm not sure I've got direct influences as such, as I've sort of sponged so many different things from different places, So, yeah.
But your mum's a musical chameleon.
Completely.
She's like there's some serious prog rock in there, isn't there?
Oh, I love all of her. I love her stuff
Sports
from
car.
that time. We did a tour where she let me pick some of the stuff that we did on in the set. She was like, "Oh, I don't know if anyone wants to hear that." And we got sports car in there. We got
so
choices
good.
you made. Some of the bigger, heavier stuff. It was so much fun. Oh my gosh.
Well, when I was researching her, I played sports car, and Jeremy really likes prog rock, and he's introduced me to rock. My whole background was very much soul and jazz and funk, and my mum worked for Decca. So, but when I wanted to really look at Judie Tzuke's back catalogue because I knew she was so much more than, Stay With Me Till Dawn, and he was like, this is incredible. What are you listening to? And it was like
so
Judie Tzuke on the Old Grey Whistle Test singing Sports Car. And it was just like going on a trip. It was just brilliant. I loved it so much.
Those have been some of my funnest times on tour when we got to do those songs. It's just been, and she never would do the "I don't care who you are, John, you're not parking your car in my garage" line.
Sorry, hang on. I think musically, Jude's tours are probably the most creatively and artistically challenging that I've done as a musician, I have to say, because I've ended up working a lot in sort of pop music essentially, and the reality is it's not rocket science. The prerequisite skills are to play in good time and to kind of stay out the way, get big when it's needed or whatever. But in Jude's stuff, because the amount of records she's played and the level of musician that she had recording with her back in the day, for you to do an honest interpretation of the parts, have to know exactly. Well, there's a track called Sukarita, and the drum part's bonkers and beautiful, but it was a drummer called Simon Phillips, who's like one of the best known sort of session drummers of that period of time, and it's really hard. so when you're out there doing it like that, those tours are intense actually, and incredibly rewarding because of it. But that's one of some of the only tours I've done where you don't eventually get bored, because the truth of the matter is when you're playing 4 on the floor every night of the week for 2 years, it can get a little dull. I hate to be a party pooper, but do you know what I mean? It can do. Bailey's Jude's tours have always been fantastic for that.
I mean, and it must have been. So, I mean, for me, it must, for a musician to then marry into a family with a Judie Tzuke, it must be just so intense. It must be the pressure as well. I just think it's so wonderful. But then you meet Judie and there's absolutely no pressure because she's so lovely and she's almost apologetic about writing. Right, I'm so sorry. This is a complicated song.
Yeah,
it's interesting actually. The first thing that I recorded, somebody asked me the other day. I was having a similar conversation, and somebody asked me, "What's your favourite track that you've ever played on?" Your favourite drum part that you've written. And there's a track that Judie has called While She Sleeps, and I think that was the first thing I ever recorded in front of Bailey's dad and for her mum. And I genuinely I love the part, but Jude loved the part as well, and whether or not she was just being kind and lovely to me, I'll never know, but she really responded to this thing, and it's quite idiosyncratic, and I'm super proud of that. And so actually when you talk about the pressure, there was a huge amount of pressure, funnily enough, but I think that sort of, I was brave enough to be creative and then was rewarded by the fact that they enjoyed that and they understood that. So I think there's an acceptance in a family sense that I'm not, I've never posed to be like the greatest drummer of all time, but I am willing to be brave enough to be creative in the moment. Do you know what I mean? Well, yeah, there you go, exactly. And
you're very creative as well.
Yeah, and so there's a little bit of mutual respect there, I think.
Well, I think that leads us nicely on to talking about you guys working together, because I think your music is so beautiful. I mean, I do think you sound like your mum as well, Bailey. You've got, but it is different, but you can definitely tell you're a Tzuke.
Yeah. Well, I think the funny,
it's so pure, like a nightingale. I mean, just
that's so lovely. I think I don't know if you've ever heard my dad sing as well.
No.
I think I'm a very, very clean down the middle mix of the two voices. It's quite.
I had no idea your dad.
It's quite fascinating. Yeah. Oh, he's got a beautiful voice. He really has.
But did he do that professionally? Have I missed a whole level of research here?
He did prior to meeting my mum.
Okay.
And then when he met mum, I think he was just so like, she's incredible. I'm gonna get involved and, help be part of this, which is amazing. And they work, the stuff that they've done together is so magical. But Dad in his own right as well, his music is so beautiful.
There you go.
Yeah, she sung quite a few of his songs, actually. I'm trying to think of which ones.
Well, she sang a song, she actually sang a song on the Woman to Woman tour, which he wrote for her, and it's so beautiful. And I've been listening to it, and I'm really bad with song names.
Come Hell or Water's High.
That's it, Come Hell or High Water.
Oh,
yeah,
there you go,
yeah.
Oh, my goodness me. I mean, you've got to really be in love and feel to write songs like that. And I just think, God, to have lived and to have felt like that, what a privilege, really.
I mean, and also for me, what a privilege growing up with two human beings that can express themselves like that.
I mean,
it's quite amazing.
Genetically to pass that down, but to grow up amongst that gentleness and spirituality must have been really beautiful.
Yeah, and
creativity,
so
of course.
So creative. They both are so creative, and like our house was just a complete hub of musicians, artists, constantly people coming and going. It was just, I couldn't have asked for more, really. Very lucky.
God, we've been chatting for nearly an hour already, though. It's wonderful, though, because you're both brilliant and it's just so fun.
Good.
But we need to talk about
we'll jump
your
back
band
into
and
Tigy.
your tour. First of all, the name, Tigy. Tigy.
Yes.
I know because your mum's told me. But if you'd like to tell everyone how you got the name.
So it stands for Thoughts I Give You. And it's got quite a long story. I'm going to try and make sense of it because sometimes I jumble this up a bit. It is the name of a diary. So originally it was my mother's sister, Wendy. It was her diary. As she was growing up, she used to write to Tigy. And Wendy passed away when she was 19, I believe. So I never got to meet her. My sister never got to meet her. And it was when we were coming to our sort of teens, when I got to about 13, I was sort of emotionally starting to struggle a little. My mum let me read Wendy's diaries. So that we were kind of connected at the same age, and I could kind of get to know her, I think in quite an amazing way. But so from that, I started to write my diaries to Tigy. Then my sister started to write to Tigy. And basically when we were all in lockdown and we were all split up, I started a WhatsApp group between the three of us girls called Tigy.
Oh,
just for us to share, just for us to share our thoughts and feelings. And then through that, as we started to do it, I started to talk to Matt about songwriting, and Matt had always played the drums, and about 2 weeks into lockdown, he was like, I'm gonna figure out how to play the piano well enough for us to write. And it really did take him maybe 2 weeks to start to sound like a piano player.
Oh, 2 weeks,
which is amazing.
2 weeks, that's all.
I know. He's going to now chime in and tell you that it wasn't, but honestly, as somebody who's been around a lot of musicians, we got writing and it was so natural. He's amazing with chords, and he put so much feeling into finding these chords that it all sort of come together. It started to come together with these words that I'd been writing in Tigy, and then these chords that Matt was playing. So I'd be wandering about the house and he'd be playing something beautiful, and it was just like all of a sudden it all started to fit together. So born out of that was these songs that we wrote, and when it came to putting it all together as an album, I was like, well, it's not a Bailey Tzuke album. It is Tigy. It's like she's become this extra part of our family and part of communication that we all have. And even our daughter now has her own little diary that she's scribbled Tigy on the front of. Yeah, I know, it's amazing. So
I've already got the goosebumps. Don't make me cry as well.
I always get a bit choked up telling this story. It became such a powerful form of connection, and the way that we all kind of can write to Tigy, and I just wanted everybody to be able to do that, really. And when we talked about naming the band, it just made sense, that Tigy is part of all of this, and it was what opened me back up to writing words again, because I'd stopped songwriting for such a long time, in a bit of a sort of rebellious kind of, I've had enough of the music industry. I'm not writing another song. Nobody's ever going to hear how I feel about anything.
I'm not giving them anything.
Exactly. To being able to come back to like a place of softness and creativity with music was really had a massive impact on me. And so, yeah, it just had to be Tigy.
So this is a second album, though, isn't it, that you've got coming out? Or is this your first album?
This is our first
single?
album. This is our first album. Basically, the way we've done it, because we're completely unknown to anybody, we've been releasing a song at a time. And when we looked at doing this, I sort of tried to treat it a little bit like as if each song has its own diary entry, like its own place. So I could put the lyrics up, I put images up with it that went with the song. And even though not every song on there would necessarily be a single, I wanted to put it out on its own, or we wanted to put it out on their own and give them their own chance to reach people. And each song along the way has sort of reached a few more people, and we're kind of building up a bit of a following, which is, you know, what it's all about, really, because doing the gigs, and that's what we want to be able to do. We want to be able to turn up and hope that people come to see us, you know.
Well, they're beautiful. And I mean, I genuinely thought this must be your second album because it sounds so established already. It's just... really beautiful,
thank you.
Really beautiful.
Well, that's probably a lot down to Cameron Blackwood, who produced it. He's coming up again. There he is. But over lockdown, we got to do the album partly remotely and partly in the studio as well when it sort of opened up for a couple of weeks. But because Cameron, Matt, and I, and Ben Mark, who plays all the guitars, and Jamie Sefton, who played all the horns, we all know each other so well that we could work remotely and really be able to communicate what it was we were trying to do. And yeah, I think it all came together. Like, I feel like that about the album. I don't want to change anything about it. I love it the way it came out.
It's incredibly beautiful. And
thank you.
I've interviewed Chris Amu from The Real Thing, and they wrote an album in lockdown, all in different places. And I think if you've got a band you trust,
exactly,
you can do it.
Yeah, it's about having those relationships. Yeah.
Well, it's a privilege for having such a lovely band as well, isn't it? And
yeah, absolutely.
And that's why I think Jack was able to do so much with Europeana, and we'll get to Jack, because he recorded that in different rooms and different places, and he wanted loads of children singing on one particular song, but obviously there were no schools, so he had to double track and double. I mean, so fascinating. And you're supporting Jack Savoretti, who I'm sure most people know is my cousin, because I tell people it's like my opening gambit, but I'm so excited because you're supporting him. So tour, album, hit me with it all. We're going to put everything in show notes so people can listen, follow, find, come and support.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. Yes, because
Tell me all about the single and the tour.
Well, so the single that's coming out next is a song called Yellow Lines, and I think it's going to be, is it the sixth one from the album that we've come? Yeah, I think it's going to be the sixth one from the album coming out, and it comes out on the 24th of March. And we basically...
Is that your wedding anniversary?
Actually, we're the 28th of March. That's very good.
Well, I knew that because I know it's coming up to the 14 years that you've been married.
That's right.
I know, but I don't remember where I've put my car keys, but I'll remember your wedding anniversary.
I completely understand that. I'm very similar. But
yes, the names of any of your songs.
No. It's all right. I don't half the time. I've got this terrible thing at the moment, which actually came to bite me at the Union Chapel the other day when we supported Rumour, is that I organise everything, and I'm quite organised when we're doing a gig. I really work hard at getting my organisation skills into play, and then every single time I forget to write a set list.
Oh, no.
Which is normally okay. But then the other night, standing there in front of 900 people, I had to admit to them, I was like, I've got no idea what's coming next.
Who did? Matt, I'm assuming.
Luckily, Matt does, yeah.
Which is unusual for a drummer.
He's much more organised than I am, to be honest.
As a drummer, you always have to know what's coming next, because you're going to have to count the thing in.
Yeah,
so
you
actually,
have to start.
I think for drummers, very often I'll already have one eye on the next track while I'm playing the other one, because I've got to get my head in the right space. You know,
it's a myth that drummers are wild.
Yeah,
that's
true.
It's true, actually. Yeah,
actually quite
he's much more sensible than me.
Is it a myth? I don't know. Maybe you're internally. I just think drummers are just excellent. For me, who loves jazz so much, I love the bass line of a song, and I always laugh at people. So you can always tell people who really love music, and I always say to my kids, you can see the people who dance to the bass line or they dance to the lyrics. Don't do the latter.
True.
Yeah, that's so strong true. Observation. I like that. Yeah, very good.
Please
I'm
always
use
just
that.
stick with the bass line and the rhythm. Just don't forget what the lyrics are doing.
Yeah.
Exactly. But so we've got some little gigs that we're putting in around the release of Yellow Lines that we're going to be doing. Some sort of smaller singer-songwriter nights, some more where we'll have the four of us up there as a band. And then obviously leading up to this very, very exciting gig with Jack on the 15th of July. Which actually will be my second time to open for Jack, which is hilarious because when I was doing my own stuff back at the Cobden Club, we actually did a night together where he did the headline set. Oh, he did the headline set and I opened at the beginning.
I was at that gig.
Isn't that funny?
Yes, but I think I turned up. I think I had very young children, and I think because I lived quite near the Cobden at the time.
Yeah.
Does it still exist?
I think actually it's not. I don't think it's open
Didn't
now.
Madonna have her birthday party there, and it was all terribly... It was the ultimate place.
It was a very cool place.
Point, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I think
cool
I was
place.
at that gig. But I think I came late because I had little ones. But
But that'll be very exciting.
So that's Hampshire. So
Yes.
and that's on the 14th of July, and you get to, I'm assuming we get tickets through Jack's website for that.
It's it's the 15th of July, so it's a Saturday.
Got to see him. That's the problem.
And the tickets are up on Jack's site. Yeah, all the links and there. We've got links from ours to Jack, so that
And where else can we see you performing? Because I haven't had that privilege yet, and I'm going to change that. But I know with having listened to your mum and then witnessing her live, it's almost it's spiritual. It's so beautiful, and I want to be fully immersed, and I think it's a whole experience coming to watch your. I watched your the clips of the chapel with Rumour, and it's spiritual for me. It really is, and I think to see you in person is really important, and everyone should.
Oh, thank you.
And the same applies to your mum, actually. And I know she hates that because she's really nervous and she'd rather never perform again. But you've all got to go and see Judie Tzuke as well, because you're both gifted. It's more than a talent; it's an absolute gift. Would you agree, Matt?
Oh, totally. Do you know what you were talking about favourite lyricists and drummers and stuff earlier? And honestly, without just saying it for the sake of it, Bailey is one of the greatest lyricists of all time. No, seriously, we sit down and write. I come up with ideas and
have you heard this before, Bailey? Have you heard him say this?
I tell her every day, Meredith. I tell her every day.
Yeah,
every day. But I've worked with an awful lot of people, and I'm a grown up now. I've been doing this for many years, and there are certain people in the world that have an ability to just take really broad ideas and put them into, distill them into something that can mean a lot to an awful lot of people. I think Jude's always done a great job of that, and I think Bailey has come through, and she's one of those people too. Just quite magical to be around.
Do you know what? I'm quite glad the interview's coming to an end, because I feel a little bit emotional by that. That was so beautiful. I mean, you're such a beautiful family anyway. And the weird thing is, did you know, Matt, we were almost related?
Isn't that funny?
Is that
you know that? So Judie used to go out with no, Judie's uncle.
I was going to say, I think it was
used to go out with my aunt.
Oh wow!
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
What a tiny world we live in. It's
But
amazing, isn't it?
But then, if they had got married, we wouldn't have Jack.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's a shame. I'd love to be related to Judie, but I'm glad I found Judie and we're friends and we've got Jack, because he's changed people's lives.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know I'll say something on that, and sorry if this doesn't make the interview, but I'll say that on a family level. I spent years playing with people doing incredible things, but I never stopped to think about it, and I never enjoyed it. I was always moving on to the next thing. And I know a lot of people have talked about, the impact of lockdown and all that kind of stuff, and it's affected people in different ways. But actually, it made me really reflect on what I love about music, because I was writing with Bailey every day. I was creating. I was suddenly really emotionally attached. Whereas actually in the past, I'd just been getting things right and doing a job. And the first gigs that I did when things started to open back up were with Jack. And they were a couple of... we did some radio promo things, one of which was Radio 2.
And this wasn't with Bailey?
No. So
gosh.
So this is me playing drums for Jack.
Oh,
and I
didn't
did.
realise.
We did a festival, and I promised myself, I was like, when I get into those rehearsals, I'm just going to enjoy the music. And when we get up and we do that gig, I'm just going to enjoy the gig. And I swear, as a drummer, is one of the most enjoyable gigs I've ever had. And out of all the things I've done, and there was something so lovely about it, because I think that, Jack and Shannon and everyone, they're all coming together after such a long layoff, that everyone just wanted to enjoy it. And actually, it was a real reminder of that being... You forget what a motivating factor that has been in getting you to music. If that I know it sounds silly, but you just, it becomes a job. And actually detaching from that and just enjoying a show was huge for me. And so, so the last time the first time back was me playing with Jack.
Oh, that's extraordinary. And
Totally.
his band of brothers.
Oh,
yeah.
They are. They're such a lovely unit. And I was just filling in because people couldn't travel. So Jesper, who is a wonderful drummer who plays with Jack regularly, he was stuck in Denmark at the time, which is why I filled in. But it's changed how I feel about playing live on stage. So there you go. So I'm glad Jack exists.
Oh, he'll love that. And I have to say, his band are as part, it's not just Jack. I had to go on an interview recently about Jack fans, and I sort of said, I'd love to tell you he's very, very different, but what you see is what you get. And his band are all just, what you see is what you get, and they're all just a group of mates that just really love what they're doing and know that every day they're so privileged to have the opportunity to do what they love. And Shannon, wow, I mean, you mentioned Shannon, what a musical director. Nikolai as well. And so that I'm going to try and come to that gig. I want to come to the Hampshire gig.
Please do.
I would love to, because I just think, wow, how amazing. And if we can get your mum to come along as well.
Absolutely.
Shall I
Oh yeah,
insist
definitely.
She comes with
She'll
me?
come.
Let's make it a date.
Yeah,
It'll be such a lovely evening.
Yay! And I can get the kids to house sit, you see, so I can really enjoy myself. Maybe stay down there. It's Hampshire. So, goodness me, we've chatted already for an hour. I think we've covered pretty much everything. We can find everything we need to know on your website. We're going to put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Anything else?
In sort of true dyslexic style, all of our socials don't quite make sense to each other. I've spelt some of them with dots, some of them not with dots, some of them, it's very confusing. So our website is the best place, and then it kind of links to everything else.
And your music, your videos are there, and I love the video. Ronnie in as well, running through the woods in her little rainbow outfit that I want to wear. Yes.
I made that actually. And
did
we were
you?
Yeah, I did, on my phone.
There is no end to your talents.
Well, we were in lockdown and I was like, I want to make this video.
Oh, well, this is exciting and this is a first. So I can end this episode with a taste of what's to come. And this is why we need to all be listening to Bailey and Matt, because honestly, the music is so beautiful. So beautiful. And I'm so excited about seeing you live as well. It's going to be so much fun. I want to see you before then, though. There's so many. You're doing lots, though. You're not just doing one night with Jack.
No, exactly. We've got gigs coming in as we speak, trying to put them all in order, and I'm going to put them up on our sites any minute. We've also got a mailing list, so if anybody wants to keep right on top of all the first news, it will be going through our mailing list and all our socials. But yeah, all the dates are sort of coming together as we speak.
Oh, thank you so much. Honestly,
thank you so much.
It's been a joy. You're both excellent. I'm so jealous I'm not part of your family. I'm kind of going to move myself in like a cuckoo. And we're going to do something really unusual. I hope we can do this. We're going to leave with a song. And would you like to introduce whatever song you want? Excited to have
absolutely.
A song at the end of my episode.
Which one should we go for?
What should we have?
I think the first song that really sort of started off Tigy is going to be Only Way to Let the Light In.
And a little bit of background on that.
So it was a song, basically, it was the first part, first words I started writing down after my sort of standoff with not saying or anything I feel. I then sort of was like, well, actually, there's something happening. I'm starting to hear these words. I'm going to start putting them down. And so it was the first one that really opened up writing again. And it is a song about, I guess, music coming back into my life and the light coming back into my life and being open to the world. Yes.
Oh,
now I'm getting emotional.
I'm trying not to cry. I know. I was thinking Matt talk. Matt,
sorry.
say something.
I was getting emotional too.
So sorry.
Yes.
It's also beautiful because we have been through lockdown. We have, and through everything, I've met so many wonderful people, and I truly believe so much beautiful music has been written, and it's really been it's also like you can tell the bands who are really close and it's just wonderful. So before I do embarrass myself further, thank you again so much. Matt, do you want to introduce the song as a way to end this beautiful podcast? But thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much.
I will introduce the song. I just want to say thank you very much, Meredith. Also, you're very good at this. Your energy and your rhythm are fantastic. And I'm not saying we get interviewed left, right, and centre. But I'm just saying that this has been one of those really, like, this just hasn't missed a beat. It's felt so comfortable and lovely. So thank you very much.
That's such an honour. Thank you. I'm massively unmedicated ADHD, so I often worry. But
I think that translates well in the podcast world.
Yes.
It's what keeps it interesting, because that's what conversations do. If you're in a pub, you don't sort of like follow some sort of scheduled outlet, sort of.
I'm so glad you said this,
you?
Matt, because my husband and producer always says, you need a structure. And I'm like, oh, that immediately makes it boring.
Yeah, well, it makes it risky not having one, but at the same time, the edges are where the sparks fly, right?
Oh, I love this. I'm going to have a T-shirt saying that. I'm actually going to write that down. Say that again. The edges.
The edges are where the sparks fly.
I'm going to put that on a T-shirt. Do you want one?
Yeah, do it. Knock them out. Flog them.
I'm going to actually have your name on it, and I'm not going to flog. I'm going to send you one.
Oh.
The edges are where the sparks fly. Should we get a little one for Rani as well?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, let's get that sorted. I'm going to get my design head on. Matt, introduce us out. Is that right? See us out.
What's
outro?
Well,
outro us out.
Outro. This is Only Way to Let the Light In by Tigy.
Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you, Meredith.
Darkness broke into my house, and sadness sits on my sofa. Hate that hides under the bed, and sorrow pours out my shower. Doubt hangs in the air. It's always there, but still the door is open. It's the only way to let the light in. It's the only way to let the light in. Jealousy in the foundations, and greed runs in the water, and guilt hangs in the air. It's always there, but still the door is open. It's the only way to let the light in.
Hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I'm back next time with another amazing guest, and he's a hot one in every sense of the word. Don't forget to subscribe, tell your friends, download, like us on Instagram. All the information you need is in the show notes.